Hello, I'm Zeta Tomla from the RCCM, and I'm here today with Lucy Doyle, who won the George Lewith Prize for her work with yoga and the quality of life in IBS at our annual conference this year. Hello, Lucy.
Hi, Zeta.
I wanted to ask you a bit about the study today. What inspired you to do the study?
So the study was for my master's project. I did a MSc in health psychology at the University of Westminster. And I've always kind of had a broad interest in sort of the brain-gut relationship, kind of how things like stress can affect digestion. So I knew I was kind of interested in that broad kind of area. So I decided to kind of focus in on IBS just because it's such a common condition and there's kind of no medical kind of treatment for
Yeah.
IBS. So I decided that was kind of going to be the focus. And then in terms of the looking at yoga, um, so obviously I've got the interest in the kind of stress and the gut and things like that, and then obviously yoga's a kind of effective form of stress relief for a lot of people. When I started doing the research into it, the kind of literature review around it, I sort of started to find that there was quite a lot of research specifically on yoga and the benefits of it, and they mainly came from kind of interventions and trials of yoga for people with IBS. Also, my because it was obviously for a master's project, it had to be kind of quite a narrow area. So I discussed with Tina, my supervisor, and she kind of advised as well to do sort of narrow in on like one complementary therapy, which obviously yoga had the most kind of research backing it. And also there was quite a good research gap in that area because there was quite a lot, whilst there was quite a lot of research in the coming from like trials and interventions, there was actually less research on people with IBS who use yoga in their day-to-day lives. So
Yeah.
it was kind of, yeah, it was kind of a natural gap in the research. It was quite surprising actually because quite a lot of people do use yoga and have
Yeah.
IBS.
Yeah.
Obviously it's a common condition, and there was less known about kind of perhaps some of the barriers to practicing yoga and what people with IBS kind of their perceptions towards it. And so that was kind of where the general, yeah, it kind of naturally went in that direction.
That's really interesting, isn't it? Because that makes it real. It's people actually using it, and where
Yeah.
are those barriers? What's actually going on for them in real life, and how is it really helping? That's interesting. So what are the key conclusions of the study?
So we looked at kind of a few main like areas. So the first part of the research was looking at, it was kind of a quantitative analysis, and it looked at whether yoga use was related, it could predict quality of life scores in our sample. So the key conclusions from that were that we did find that yoga was significantly related to quality of life alongside some other kind of which more obvious predictors like symptom severity and things like depression and anxiety, which are obviously quite common with a condition like IBS. And yoga use was also is correlated with symptom severity. So people who practiced yoga were more likely to have lower, kind of less severe symptoms. So we concluded from that really that we indicated that practicing yoga as part of everyday life was having similar kind of benefits to practicing it within more of a structured way, like such as like in an intervention study.
Yeah.
Um, and then we did a qualitative analysis as well. So we asked the participants two open-ended questions. So
Yeah.
people who practiced yoga, we had them kind of answer about what they felt was beneficial to them about yoga in relation to their IBS. And then all the participants, regardless of whether they practiced yoga, kind of spoke a bit about their perceptions, wrote a bit about their perceptions of yoga and in relation to how effective they felt it would be for their IBS. So yeah, from that, I think one of the main conclusions in terms of the benefits was that all the participants really, like with a lot of them noticed, they knew about the kind of stress relieving effects of yoga, and a lot of the ones that practiced yoga, they were sort of saying that they made direct links between that and relief in their symptoms. So I think that was kind of really powerful how strong that link is. That they would kind of notice that they would have like a direct relief in their symptoms after practicing and things like that. And then we also noted, we also had quite a strong theme around kind of motivation for practicing, and in relation to IBS. So and the kind of influences on motivation. So for example, we found that quite a few of the practitioners they knew a lot about the benefits of yoga in relation to kind of digestion and things like that, where and that was a key motivator to continue using yoga. And then in terms of some of the people who hadn't practiced yoga before, they kind of often showed they often weren't, for example, aware of some of the benefits that it could have for IBS, for digestion. They often sort of said, oh, I didn't know about that kind of thing. So we kind of concluded that it would probably be useful to maybe publicize some of the benefits more, because obviously it's very individual. It's not something that always works for someone, or always, always it will always be useful. But it at the same time, it seemed that not knowing about the benefits, obviously naturally that's gonna not then you're not gonna necessarily be motivated because you weren't aware that there was a link. So that was one of the main ones. And then I think the key kind of take home from it that we found in terms of the qualitative side of the study was that yoga really needs to be tailored when used for IBS. So a lot of the participants spoke about how, depending on the stage they were at with their symptoms, or if they were in a flare-up of IBS, then some elements to the yoga would be less effective, and they'd be less able to practice them. Obviously, that kind of makes sense at the time. They'd be obviously being in pain and things like that is a significant barrier. And that obviously applies to physical activity in general as well. So I think that was probably one of the main things that stood out, was the need to choose which elements of yoga you do dependent on your symptoms and dependent on the stage that you're kind of at, whether it's a flare up or the symptoms are more calm. And that was probably the main finding.
There's a lot there, isn't there, Lucy? And I think we can all from the outside look and think, it makes logical sense that yoga is to help, but to have some real evidence about that and some guidance now around what to do and what not to do at certain times, I think will be very empowering for people moving forward. But I think that you've almost sort of preempted my next question. How are you disseminating the work? Because you've just said people don't know it can help. So how are you disseminating these findings, this information?
Well, we had a number of organisations who kindly helped with the recruitment of for the study. So we had an IBS charity, and the IBS network helped with that, and also a number of yoga organisations based in the UK. So we've kind of put together a summary document which details obviously the main findings, and also some of the specific kind of yoga poses and things that the participants said were particularly helpful or might have been less helpful. So that's been sent out to them, and that's kind of been sent out to the participants as well. And we had a lot of help from support groups on kind of social media and things like that. So that was great, and that's been sent out to them. And we're also hopefully going to submit the paper for publication.
That's wonderful, and I think great to be distributing the poses that are most useful. I think that's really helpful for people, isn't it? Oh, that's really interesting, Lucy. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me about this today. And I wish you well in getting this published and getting the information out there for people. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Zeta.